Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has thrown down a challenge to the federal government. His message is simple. If you have evidence against me over the alleged $16 billion power spending, then investigate me. Don't just make accusations. Probe me. The statement comes amid renewed controversy over Nigeria's electricity sector, billions of dollars reportedly committed to power projects, and questions about why Nigerians continue to experience electricity challenges despite years of government spending. But there's a bigger question behind Atiku's challenge. Where did the billions go, and why has Nigeria's power problem remained so difficult to solve? Let's break down what happened, what Atiku is saying, and why this could become another major political battle ahead of 2027. Atiku Abubakar has challenged the federal government to investigate him if it has evidence linking him to wrongdoing concerning the alleged $16 billion spent on Nigeria's power sector. Rather than simply dismissing the allegations, Atiku's position is essentially, bring the evidence. Investigate me. That is a significant political challenge. Because allegations involving billions of dollars are not small political accusations. They concern public money. They concern government contracts. And ultimately, they concern millions of Nigerians who have had to live with unreliable electricity despite decades of promises. Nigeria's electricity crisis is not new. For years, successive governments have announced power sector reforms, generation projects, transmission projects, and distribution improvements. Billions of dollars have been committed to the sector through different programs and agreements. Yet electricity supply remains one of the biggest complaints among Nigerian households and businesses. That naturally raises a very simple question. If so much money has been spent, why is the power problem still here? That question isn't limited to one political party. It applies to successive governments. And it is one of the reasons the debate surrounding the alleged $16 billion has attracted so much attention. Atiku's critics have raised questions about the period when he served as vice president under President Olusegun Obasanjo. During that administration, Nigeria pursued major power sector initiatives. One of the most controversial was the National Integrated Power Project, commonly known as NIPP. The program was designed to increase electricity generation and strengthen infrastructure. Large amounts of public money were committed to power projects during that era. And because Atiku was vice president at the time, his political opponents have continued to associate him with decisions made by that government. That appears to be part of the background to the current controversy. This point is extremely important. When a politician is accused of involvement in the spending of billions of dollars, there are two separate questions. First, was the money actually spent? And second, was the person accused personally responsible for wrongdoing involving that money? Those are not the same question. Government spending can be legitimate even when a project fails. A project can also involve corruption without every official connected to the government being personally guilty. That's why evidence matters. And that is precisely why Atiku is saying, if you have evidence, investigate me. Atiku's challenge essentially puts the burden back on his accusers. Instead of continuing a political argument through press statements, he wants the matter tested through investigation. If there is evidence of wrongdoing, let investigators examine it. If there isn't, then the allegation should not simply be repeated as though it were established fact. This is an important principle in public accountability. When billions of dollars are involved, Nigerians deserve more than political accusations. They deserve documentation. They deserve audits. They deserve procurement records. They deserve project records. And they deserve to know who received the money and what was delivered. But here's where this story goes beyond Atiku. Nigeria has enormous energy potential. The country has natural gas. It has large populations that need electricity. It has businesses desperate for reliable power. It has hospitals, schools, and industries that depend on electricity. Yet millions of Nigerians still rely heavily on generators and alternative sources of power. That creates another economic problem. Businesses don't only pay for electricity. Many businesses have to pay for fuel to run generators. And that raises the cost of doing business. Think about a small business. A barber needs electricity for clippers. A frozen food seller needs electricity for freezers. A restaurant needs electricity for refrigeration and cooking equipment. A pharmacy needs reliable power for certain equipment. A manufacturing company needs electricity to operate machinery. When grid electricity isn't reliable, these businesses turn to generators. Then they have to buy fuel. They have to maintain the generator. They have to replace parts. And all those costs eventually affect the consumer. So Nigeria's power problem isn't just an electricity problem. It is an economic problem. This is why Atiku's challenge is politically significant. If billions of dollars have been spent on the power sector over the years, Nigerians have a right to ask, what did we get for the money? Not just under Atiku's era. Not just under Buhari. Not just under Tinubu. But under every administration that has received public money for electricity projects. Because the electricity problem has survived multiple governments. And that means accountability should not stop with one political party. There is also an obvious political dimension. Atiku remains one of the major opposition figures in Nigeria. The 2027 presidential election is approaching. And political parties are already preparing their narratives. For Atiku, accusations concerning his record provide an opportunity to challenge the current government to produce evidence. For the federal government and APC, Atiku's record provides an opportunity to question whether he should be trusted with power again. So expect more of these arguments. Expect politicians to revisit old projects. Expect old allegations to return. Expect billions of naira and dollars to become campaign talking points. But Nigerians should demand something more useful. Evidence. If the government genuinely wants to investigate the alleged spending, what should Nigerians expect? First, investigators should identify the exact amount involved. Not a vague figure. A documented figure. Second, they should identify the projects. Where were they? When were they approved? Who received the contracts? How much was paid? Third, investigators should determine what was delivered. Was the project completed? Is it functioning? How much electricity does it generate? And finally, was there any evidence of fraud, diversion, or abuse of public funds? Those are the questions that can transform political accusations into accountability. Atiku's challenge sounds straightforward. Probe me if you have evidence. But if a genuine investigation is opened, then every relevant document and decision should be examined. That means former officials should be prepared to answer questions. Not only Atiku. Anyone involved in major power sector spending should be accountable. If someone approved a contract, explain why. If someone supervised a project, explain what happened. If money was released, explain where it went. And if a project failed, Nigerians deserve to know why. And this is where Nigerians need to be careful. Political parties can spend months arguing over who is responsible. One side says, it was your government. The other says, no, it was your government. Meanwhile, Nigerians are still buying fuel for generators. That doesn't solve anything. The country needs reliable electricity. And it needs accountability for the money already spent. So instead of asking only, which politician is winning the argument? Ask, where is the money? Where are the projects? Are they working? Those questions matter much more. Ultimately, the strongest evidence isn't a political speech. It's infrastructure that works. If billions were spent on a power project, Nigerians should be able to see the result. Electricity should be generated. Transmission should work. Distribution should improve. Businesses should benefit. Households should benefit. That's how taxpayers can judge whether public spending achieved its purpose. So, Atiku Abubakar has issued a direct challenge to the federal government over allegations surrounding $16 billion in power sector spending. His position is essentially, if you have evidence that I did something wrong, don't just accuse me, investigate me. And that raises a much bigger issue. Nigeria has spent enormous amounts of money on electricity projects over many years. Yet the country continues to struggle with reliable power. So Nigerians deserve answers. How much has actually been spent? Where was the money spent? Which projects were completed? Which ones failed? Who was responsible? And was public money properly accounted for? Those questions should be answered regardless of which political party is involved. Because electricity is not APC electricity. It is not PDP electricity. It is not Labour Party electricity. It is Nigerian electricity. And Nigerians are the ones paying the price when the system doesn't work. So what do you think? Should the federal government accept Atiku's challenge and conduct a full investigation into the alleged $16 billion power spending? Or do you think this is simply another political battle ahead of 2027? Drop your opinion in the comments. And if you want Nigerian political news explained beyond the headline, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next video.